Hello, everybody. Welcome to Show de Vie with Mike G, the show of life, the show of bass guitar, the show of LCD sound system reforming. That's right. Sandra Spalding, director of marketing for Twin Liquor, and I discuss in this interview how LCD sound system was going to get back together. Now, mind you, this is like 3 or 4 weeks ago. We knew it, and now they are one of the headliners for Coachella 2016. But Coachella and music aside for a moment, this week is the wonderful annual event in San Antonio, the San Antonio Cocktail Conference. All of your friends, all of my friends in the industry, lovers, hobbyists, they're heading to San Antonio to learn a bit about the industry, to drink a bit with some friends. And this year, among the sponsors, Twin Liquors is a big supporter of the San Antonio Cocktail Conference. I thought it would be perfect time to share some stories from one of the masterminds of marketing there, Sandra Spalding. We've known each other a few years. We definitely are fellow musicians, and we get to dive in deeply, as we often do on the show, into music. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy my conversation with Sandra Spalding.
I mean, I don't know. There's so much access now, you know, that it's almost like I almost kind of become paralyzed by music now. It's like when we were kids, actually, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid.
So old, so very old.
When I was a kiddo, it was all about, you know, the things that you had access to.
Yeah.
And now we have access to so much that I almost kind of, you know, I have to like be very deliberate in the way I approach trying to find new music because it's just disgusting out there. Sorry. But it is. And like,
just because there's so much like just terrible derivative bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying like, everybody who's writing music, like they're hoping to do, well, maybe they are hoping to do something better or create something. And kudos to them for trying. But it's just, there's just, that I need a better filter. And, you know, like, I love, we were talking about Spotify. I love the Discover Weekly, which is great. 90% of the music on it is music I already know, but it's stuff I just never think to put on.
Is it weird that they know you? Because it feels like, wait, are you guys paying attention? What's the deal?
But the New Music Friday playlist that they put out is just disgusting.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I'll scroll through it real quick just to see, oh, there's the new Bowie track, which I already knew was coming.
Right.
Thing. But anyway.
Yeah. It's getting shitty, but you know, I always thought about like
it goes around though. It'll come back around, and there's some great stuff happening out there too.
Oh, for sure.
So
I think still all the good stuff happens across the pond for me. all the goody, a lot of it is pretty good. And so, oh god, did you hear the Radiohead cover that the Bond theme they did for Spectre?
Yeah, that got rejected.
So. Got rejected.
It was on SoundCloud last week, right?
Right. They released it as a Christmas present, which very thoughtful of them, you know. But think about it, got rejected for Sam Smith.
Yeah. There you go. Case in point.
That's so horrible.
And you know what? My mom loves Sam Smith. So
sure.
Great. You know what? That's great. Like
totally
I want there to be stuff out there for everybody, but you know, now I'm forgetting what my original point was, but the point being that you have to work really hard. You know, as a kid, I had to work hard to find stuff that I liked because I didn't have access to it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Now I have to work hard to like filter through all the bullshit.
It's on the other end of it, right?
You know?
It's it's an interesting flip. It's a continuum where, you know, it's like, oh, too much or so little, I have to go explore. And now there's so much delivered to me, hand curated for me. Thank you, Spotify. But it's still, you still have to sift through it and find good things because there's so much shit. There really is.
And it's like that with everything now.
Yeah.
Potato chip brands.
I love potato chips.
Flavored vodkas.
Which actually probably go pretty well together. So the ancillary parallel markets, that's pretty good. So looking back at if you could think about recap musically for you this year in 2015, because Spotify did it. They so beautifully summarized my music listening for 2015 with this nice personalized site and stuff. Was there anything that really struck out for you or stuck out for you in 15?
Oh my gosh, something I haven't even really thought about.
Yeah.
Not that I can think of right off the top of my head. What I did get excited about the other day was LCD Sound System's new song they just put out. Yeah, Christmas song. It's
really
incredible. Christmas will break your heart.
Oh,
and it's a la, New York, You're Bringing Me Down. It's really great, which kind of gets me excited about the hope that they're
going to tour again. That I've heard that's going to happen.
There's rumors. They haven't confirmed it yet, but I mean,
put out a song. You're not just like you don't just go in studio and you're like, that's it. I've had enough.
Yeah.
No, you've seen James Murphy's like his whole the vinyl collection, his equipment and stuff. There's no way you go in there for like 20 minutes and take off. You're gonna hunker down and you're gonna record some stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure.
So that got me pretty excited. And there's been some great releases this year. I can't think of what.
Oh, it's a lot. There's been so much. Luckily, I had Spotify helped me.
Can I bring this down just a tiny bit?
Absolutely.
Like I can't see you.
No one wants to see me. I promise you. No one does. But no, apparently, for me, it was Fugazi this year, which is, about 20 years too late. But still, that's what I listened to the most this year is Fugazi and John Carpenter.
Oh, John Carpenter. Spotify told you that.
Yeah, it told me number one, two, the most listened to albums, the most listened to songs, and basically like my charts for me.
Oh, cool.
I'm pretty predictable. It's actually kind of sad, actually.
I want to go look at that. It's gonna tell me that I listen to all kinds of terrible workout music because I do listen to like the most as I talk about all the shitty music out there, and then
it's got its place.
Yeah, and then I listen to all this like crappy music, but with all the Zumba and the working out and at the gym and everything. But
there's Pitbull. Let's listen. So what we'll use Pitbull as a method of transitioning into a different part of the conversation.
Sure.
Because Pitbull really bothers the fuck out of me. I don't know why, but he's the Budweiser spokesperson.
It's terrible.
It is terrible, right?
But it just, whatever it does, it just makes me want to.
Works.
Maybe it makes me mad, and that's why I work out. Like I work out really hard.
It's a revolutionary workout.
I'm running for my life.
Running from Pitbull. It's like you represent everything I hate, Pitbull. I'm fighting against you every single workout. That's good. That is a great reason to listen to Pitbull.
Right.
That's absolutely amazing.
Right.
So for what I understand, we met a few years ago now, and I think again, like you and Ian, we just kind of had this like kindred spiritness about music and writing music, listening to music, all this kind of stuff, and not to mention the whole booze bit. But if I recall, so you are originally from SoCal?
I grew up, I was born in East LA and then lived in that area for a while. And then when my folks got divorced, my mom moved us to the beach. So I grew up in Huntington Beach.
How old when you moved to the...
I was kind of in that like 6 to 10-year-old range where I was doing some back and forth. And then, so I mean, I really did grow up, in Huntington.
Yeah.
And
is East LA rough? I've never been. I've been there except for accidents.
It's considered that way. Yeah. It's
but
starting
you didn't notice like
it's getting gentrified. No, I mean, and where I lived, like where I ended up living, was not East LA proper.
Yeah.
It was a city called Montebello, and very very tight knit Armenian community.
Yeah. Because that was the one thing. That was the other thing I remember. It's like I don't know what was at stake. If it was a free drink or something, or like if you can guess my nationality, I'll get you a drink. There's lots of motivation for me. Yeah, and I'm like, I botched the shit out of it. Yeah, but Armenian is a distinctly proud and distinctly cultural ethnicity. Is that fair to say?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, small little country. And, but people with, a lot of pride, big hearts, a huge community in the LA area. And so I went to Armenian school as a child. And then, like I said, when my folks got divorced, I kind of slowly transitioned into the like beach, culture and lifestyle. Yeah. And at that point, my dad was still in LA. So I was doing a lot of back and forth. So it was kind of interesting because I ended up growing up with like a foot in that world and then a foot in this very like, blonde hair, blue eyed community of
the antithesis, actually.
It was such a trip for me. I'm at a junior high with a surf team. You know, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
That's incredible.
So it was quite different, but it really kind of gave me some interesting, culture diversity.
And because I'm not too familiar, what was Armenian school like? I mean, what's different about that? It's not like a seminary school?
No, it was just private school.
Oh, okay.
But it was an Armenian school, so we had some of our classes. Well, we had Armenian language class, and then even though we spoke English in the classroom, there was like some Armenian that was spoken to, and Armenian history class, and
that's so cool.
Yeah,
I think and it helps build kind of a really strong sense of community too, right?
It really does. And
so taking that and then almost being disjointed and having this kind of other, was you said middle school kind of experience?
Pretty much, yeah.
Lots of surfer kids, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was wild.
Huntington Beach, you said, right?
Yes, Huntington. And I was an anomaly, when I showed up on the scene halfway through middle school. Of course, I don't start with everybody else. I start in the middle of it all. And I just was so self-conscious of my dark hair and well, I'm not that dark, but at the time I was a lot darker.
Yeah.
And, and I've got like a little bump on my nose. And it was like just this like girl who's so like, my mom was like, "You're exotic." And I'm like, "But I just want to look like
she in
everybody
marketing? That's a brilliant term for it.
So I was very self-conscious as a child, and I don't know, also an only child. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to ante up a little bit of personal, like the same thing. I moved around lots when I was younger, and I started junior high in Salt Lake City, which is not a very diverse the city, mind you. But I got more mature, like, and I not evolved, but I grew up more quickly than the other kids, and I always felt so different. It's like, well, I've got hairy. Now it's not a thing. Like, I know so many dudes that are hairy as shit, right? But I, hairy arms, armpit, like, and I just was always looking around, like, is everybody looking at me because I look so different because I'm at this other point, like, and people are uncomfortable with themselves and things, but it works out. But what was it that helped you kind of bridge that gap of being what you felt is different? Was it music? Was it
creativity, music? Being an only child, I did a lot of stuff on my own. But even though I had a lot of friends and I was always kind of like the ringleader, I still preferred like to work on projects on my own, a little bit more of a lone wolf in that regard, which is kind of, if you know me, you're like, really? But when it comes to like, I have a very I get very serious about a vision that I have for something, and I don't play well with others sometimes.
Because you want to see it through.
Yeah.
You're a good director.
And I had my moments too as a kiddo being that, and that really did actually help me. And also just being around adults, I always craved like the stories they would tell, and I wanted those experiences. Like I liked the life I was in, and I was very happy, and I was always a happy child, and always had a good time and enjoyed the things I was doing. But I just, the stories that my elders told me, and like the story of my grandmother and my grandfather and how they got together, during the war, and just not that.
Do you remember the story?
Yeah, it's amazing. Do you want me to tell it?
No, I mean, I'm riveted already. I'm like, wait, what was the story?
No, it's amazing. So on my father's side, my grandmother was living in Kiev in Russia.
Okay.
Yeah. Or the Ukraine. And so the Germans invade, and they basically like come into the town and say, "Hey, everybody's got to leave." Not that nicely, obviously, but so everybody gets packed up and gets on the train to leave. Well, my grandmother and her best friend Vera decide to go back to the house to get something. Well, they go back. When they come back, the train is gone with their family, and the family has the papers. So now they're stuck. They have no papers, right? They're at this train station. Of course, then they get apprehended by the German police that want to know, where are your papers? They don't have their papers, so they get arrested. So they end up in a German prison, and
but like a bars kind of prison, or like a work camp?
Well, no, in a bars kind of prison.
Okay, which is a better scenario in that case.
Different, yeah. It was makeshift too at the time, because it was in their
Russia,
town,
right?
In their town. So so at the time, there was a German officer who was very sympathetic to the Armenians, and he knew of this man who was a translator who was Armenian, who was my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
And he spoke 8 languages, and so he was, he actually was in the French Foreign Legion, but he was doing translating for German officials when needed, but it was all very confusing, and you don't really get like the whole story.
Right, but he was helping out. Like he knew he was a conduit to being able to like communicate from Germans to the locals.
And he did what he was told. Right. So at the time, my grandmother's in prison with her best friend and my grandfather, and they weren't together at this time. They'd never met each other. He's reading her name on a manifest, and he sees, Catherine Hocharian. And he's like, oh, this is our Armenian lady. So ends up helping her and her best friend escape.
Oh, wow.
And they end up getting out of there, and then helps her get reunited with her family.
Where did her family end up?
So they all ended up in Stuttgart, Germany, in a displaced persons camp. And that's where so they got together there. They got married there at the displaced persons camp. And then that's where my father was born, in the camp.
Oh my God.
Or in Stuttgart.
Yeah.
And then, several years later, Roosevelt, they opened the borders, and then the family came over. And so my family was fortunate enough to not have to suffer any major casualties, of the family. And then, and all those people who came over, they all came over, they all stayed together like they were family.
Yeah.
And so going back to my original point, hearing those stories of my grandmother, my grandfather, their best friends, people that I call aunts and uncles that, I'm not related to, but those stories to me were always so fascinating. And, not that I ever wanted an experience like that, but I just felt like, the meaningfulness of what they went through and the meaningfulness of life. And that's always what I wanted. It
counted for something.
It did. And like, I'm here because of that.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, like, I'm hearing these stories, but I'm seeing my grandfather sitting on a lounge chair in his, in his swimming trunks, drinking a Pernod, going for a swim in the afternoon. And I'm thinking, like, how did he get from there to here?
Yeah. This seems like a huge shift.
Shift. Yeah. Ends up living in Los Angeles. He buys a gas station, buys another one, owns an exporting company.
Oh, wow.
And then builds his little empire. And, it's amazing to me. And that to me is that's what got me from being, that middle schooler who was kind of embarrassed of, maybe a little bit embarrassed of who I was, or confused about who I was and what I meant in this world, to kind of getting over that hump and to realizing, like, this life has got to have some meaning. It's got to have some purpose.
Wow.
I'm certainly, I say this, I don't think I'll ever be in a war or in a situation like my grandmother or grandfather, but, I want to make sure that what I'm doing every day is meaningful. And so that's kind of,
wow. Yeah. It's an amazing thread, an amazing paradigm to have for life. A lot of people don't seemingly find that deep of a meaning that early on, like you kind of saw it early. Like, you realize these people had struggled, you realize they're worldly, you realize there's a sense of community that they brought over to the States. I mean, that's a hell of an influence on somebody to try to make an impact.
It did. And I don't know if at the time I was really realizing what happened.
Yeah.
I can look back on it now, and all those people are, the grandparent generation, they're pretty much all gone, but they, they're the ones too that kind of gave me my idea of hospitality, and I mentioned my grandfather drinking a Pernod. Like, that was
classy guy.
That was his thing. He drank, his Pernod, took a swim, then came back, had a vodka, and then drank wine with dinner, And my dad always jokes, oh, you're just like your grandfather, because my parents really don't drink that much. He was like, oh, it skipped a generation,
It's like baldness, drinking.
Yeah, but that, and to me, what they went through, how they got to be where they are today, and now they celebrate, every birthday was a family affair, every occasion, it was just all of us always together, all generations, from the kids to the grandparents, everybody just having a good time, and it was all about that hospitality, and I think that was just like bred into me from that. So
that's so cool.
And maybe a little bit, when my folks got divorced and I was removed from that, there was a part of me, I think, that craved that too, so I kind of I ran after that a little bit as I got older, that sense of camaraderie and
right. So. And so what did that kind of translate into the stuff you were doing in middle school and in high school? Maybe debate is one, I think, for some people. Like there's a community there. Did I pin you for debate?
Yes. MUN. Right. Model United Nations.
Yeah, see, Model UN.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
I did the same shit. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, it was a game, though.
Yeah. What was the game of it?
Just debate. No, it's just fun. Like, okay, what do you want me to argue?
Sure.
Because I can see it from all angles.
Yeah.
That's, I find people's mentality so interesting, and I don't want to get into politics or anything, but, to me, it's just fascinating to be able to, like, you can argue every angle if you really put your mind to it.
And I think that actually takes a lot of empathy, though, to be able to see it from someone else's perspective. I think that's something that a lot of people lose and that they're not willing to really accept. Now it could also mean that we are observant. You could also just pay a lot of attention to see that. But I think understanding where someone's coming from is a really important thing that a lot of people don't have that ability because they don't want to see.
That's so important, though.
Yeah, it's really important.
I mean, that's how I don't know, that's how I get through.
Yeah.
I just when I think I'm upset with somebody, I really try to like, okay, where are they coming from? Why are they behaving this way?
Because there's always a reason, whether it's money, whether it's mental illness,
sure.
in the case of certain candidates, right? But maybe they just have had a hard go. Maybe it's been a really tricky life up till now. And it's hard to ignore that. But it's so paramount to understanding people.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's
one of those things. So besides debate, was that something, I mean, I remember when they kind of planted that seed in my head. I was doing extemporaneous speaking. I did some Lincoln Douglas. There was sparring. There's like this 2-minute one, some cross-sex, all this nerdy bullshit. Oh my God. It felt like Enron destroying records when they were creating all the files for the cross-sex where they would cut out newspapers and tape them. And you remember all that stuff? It's insane.
For me, like, because I was more on the MUN side, it was more about like, international politics. Mm-hmm. So I was actually more focused on what was going on overseas than I was in our own, in our own country and in our own business world and politics. And so
it's fun though. That stuff.
It's a game. Again,
you're right. It's a game. Let's just strip it down. Yeah. It's a fucking game.
Right.
And if there's a competition to it, at least for me, like outdoing the other guy, being smarter, being more eloquent, blah 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 blah, and debate. And perhaps that's so for anybody out there that took debate in college, took debate in high school.
I didn't go that far.
I
gave it up.
I gave it up. Pissed off my teacher, but. Just know that a good pedigree in debate can lead you to creating a podcast. How about that? There's something there. That seems
Bravo.
A marginal achievement at best, right? But
hey, eloquent, and you can think on your feet.
Sure, there we go.
And steer the conversation in the direction you want it to go, right?
That's right. No, Sandra, actually, blah 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 blah. No, I wouldn't. Try not to be combative, which is a key ingredient to debate in high school.
But it's funny, we're talking about debate and I keep saying it's a game. I think that was part of it was that like once, high school was wrapping up and I'm like, my parents thought, oh, she's going to be an attorney. Like they really thought this is the path right here. And I was like, I can't dedicate my life to something that I think is a game. Like, that's not how this works.
But then you got married. So what's the... No,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. No. But so that was where I really started to like lose myself again. I mean, in high school I was so focused in the grades and like play the game and do all of that. And then like once I realized, oh shit, like this is not the direction I want to go in. Yeah. How do I get back into who I think I am, right?
Yeah,
I mean, everybody goes on that journey.
No, we all do, and we wear different masks. We go through phases, and they all culminate into being who the person we are now. But debate is a very formative thing for high school. It's at least for me, it's kind of somewhat of your social group. It's where you're spending your time after school. Like there's all this stuff that your weekends too. where I learned how to tie a tie. Like there's some amazing things that happen with the bass. And so you just made the choice that you didn't want to pursue it in college?
Yeah, I had no interest in, and nothing against people who are attorneys. It's just, sure. To me, it wasn't, I think playing the game is really interesting, but my passion was about, connectivity with a different kind of thing. And I knew it was going to be more arts related.
Were you writing or doing music or anything at that point?
So, yeah, in high school, actually, the guy, Tony, that I mentioned earlier, he and I started hanging out, listening, to great music. And that's when I started to kind of go into that alternative world of music. Before then, it was everything my parents and my parents' friends listened to, right? And so that was like my first exposure to like the Pixies and, that whole line of...
Which album was the one that you kind of stepped into?
I remember hearing Here Comes Your Man on the radio on K-Rock 106.7 for any Los Angelinos who... That was
the place.
Yeah, that was
that launched a lot of stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
For sure.
And I was like, oh, this is really great. Of course, that was kind of their hit. And then, I don't know. Come On Pilgrim was awesome. And I love Surfer Rosa. I love them all, really.
Yeah. But it was something that was maybe giving you more of your own voice?
Yes, and so what ended up happening is, of course, as it always is, when there's a girl around, you want to sing backup.
We have a keyboard too. Well, actually, no, Kim Deal played bass, so you could always play bass too.
Well, and that was the thing. We always would like play Pixie songs, so he was so excited to have like the Kim Deal voice.
Oh, that's so cool, yeah.
And so I always, and so we did that, and I was not playing bass at the time because Ian, who would eventually become my husband, was playing bass.
In this high school band?
Yeah.
No shit, really?
Yep. So he and Tony were a thing, doing their music. And
peas in a pod creatively? That kind of like real close friends and stuff?
No, not friends at all.
Oh,
like
really?
Super different. Like the only thing they had in common was music.
Gotcha.
Which was huge, And so when Tony wanted to bring me on as a backup singer, like Ian was like, I don't know about that, And then he met me, and the story goes that he, was really happy with me, but he never showed it, right?
Sure,
I wouldn't have known. And so a couple of years, and we played music together, and we had a kick-ass drummer who was just an animal, this guy Greg. And we had this band called Catherine Wheel, which obviously we had to change.
Wait a minute, I've heard of you.
Yeah, we had to change the name. And but we had this great little band, and we played around with a lot of the other OC bands at the time, Orange County bands at the time.
Yeah. What year are we talking?
This would have been 1990.
Oh wow! So this is before stuff. This is Surfer Rosa days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a grunge as we know of it was only starting to trickle into a scene.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are ahead of it.
It was
who was really cool. Like influential to you then besides the Pixies?
It was all real different. Like Ian was listening at that time like to the Wonder stuff like crazy. Okay. But he was also informed by music like the Ventures,
right.
So
of course.
And then Tony was very informed by the Beatles and James and the Pixies and then Donovan and like just kind of, and then Greg, our drummer, was like Metallica. But he and I really enjoyed like Lush and Ride and all those kind of like, shoegazy, Manchestery kind of, right? Like,
hitting a soft spot in my heart. I'm trying to. Who am I trying to think of? Adore. Like I want you to adore me. Who is that fucking?
Stone Roses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God, that was huge. I don't know if they're Manchester though. Are they from Manchester?
I lump it all together, but no, they're probably not.
But same aesthetic though.
Yeah.
Even Blur was starting out.
Oh, and Blur. Point. See, and now I kind of liked Blur, but now I'm like this insane Blur fan.
Yeah.
But
they've changed. Oh man.
Well, we saw Stone Roses and Blur play at Coachella about 4 years ago.
Oh man, how was that?
And Stone Roses, they poor guys. I mean, it was great for me because it was Stone Roses, and I'd never had a chance to see him, but it wasn't very good.
Oh,
but
man.
Blur kicked all kinds of ass.
Because Damon keeps playing live.
Jesus.
He's never stopped playing live.
Jesus, they were so good, and they played all the hits. I was like, yes.
Oh man,
I was so
I've
happy.
only seen that. I saw them one time in '95.
And how was it?
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But I didn't get it then. That's the thing.
Oh, that sucks.
Doesn't that suck when you like see a band and you're like, oh, I don't really get it, and then you 20 years later like, what
Damn
was
it.
I thinking?
Right.
I could have just, if I'd paid a little bit more attention, I would have enjoyed the show. Like when I saw Sonic Youth was my first show, and I've mentioned this before on the show. My first ever show, REM and Sonic Youth.
What?
Yeah, fucking great show. But this was Jet Set, No Star, Trash or whatever, that record on Geffen. That was when I saw them, which was a little bit after they'd been such a big force in New York and in indie rock and stuff. But I didn't get it, and I'm so regretful. I'm like, want to go smack myself and say, no, like listen to it just a little bit more. Just to me, it was like, this is so loud. That was all I could think about it. That's all I could fucking think. At any rate, so how did the music thing work out? You guys were playing a lot in OC.
Yeah, so Ian kicked me out of the band.
Is it because he loved you?
True story. Yeah. That's what he says now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Part of it, I think, was that he just really like wanted like to be very serious, about music. And I, I was there to have a good time. And so we parted ways. I stayed friends with the rest of the guys. And then like about 2 years later, Ian and I end up getting together at one of those.
Whoa, how'd you guys rejoin? Like,
you know that party, like someone always throws that very first party after everybody's gone off to college.
Yeah.
And it's that Thanksgiving weekend and everybody's back, you know. And so there was a party and I'm there and Ian's there and I just walked up to him and I was just like, man. And, I had words with him and stuff about like, why'd you do that? We had a good thing going. And then the next thing you know, we stayed up all night, like hanging out, chatting, then went on a date the next day. And
it was
that was 92.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
you guys have been, when did you guys get married?
98.
Wow.
90,
so almost
20,
coming up
20 years
18,
soon.
19 years, something like that.
Yeah.
That's fast math, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it was crazy. I mean, we never made music together. Like after that, once we got together, we didn't make music together until just recently.
That's so crazy.
Because it was
it's got to be the right time, right?
Yeah, and
that's what it takes.
It was like a little bit of a I don't know. Like I think we were both a little nervous to broach.
No, I've tried to write music with Lydia before, and my producer mode kicks in because I've worked with bands for years, and I'm like, hey, singer, because I'm a singer, like you can't bullshit me. I suck at times, and you suck at times. Like that's what happens. Singers are the most vulnerable part of the band. It's hard. It's hard. It's so hard, and you gotta listen to yourself. Blah, blah, blah.
It's terrible.
But once you do it, you come out the other side, and you're like, all right, I get singing. Singing's great, and so I treat singers in a particular way. I'm like, can try this other thing, and we were working together trying to write a song. I was like, oh, there's this guitar thing. And like the way that I would treat her was like someone in the studio, and that just fucking tarnished our chances for a couple of years of being able to write songs together. I know, but that's my fault. It's one of those things like it's different when you write music with somebody you love. It just is. It's got to be. Because like think about Wings. I don't know how difficult that was for Paul to work with Linda,
That's got to be.
It got to be really tough.
Brutal, yeah.
Yeah, even if you're the fucking most famous singer of all time, basically, like still, Linda was probably like, I'm not doing that, Paul. You know what I mean? Like it's right. It's still probably like there's some difficulty. So, but it's one of those things, And I digress. And I suspect that much how you guys kind of found this place and you're able to write music sometime after. I think that's probably hopefully what I can aim for.
You will. I think once you learn how to have, that conversation as, your conversation as a couple, but then your conversation as two people working together.
It's
versus,
different, right?
Yeah.
Because it's both. It's very, one of these things, patting my head, patting my
Right?
stomach. It's a very difficult balance. And I think you're right. Kind of being sensitive and not too, as men can be task oriented. Which is difficult.
Well, and especially with writing music, because there's such it is about your creative expression and the love or the angst or frustration or whatever it is you're feeling. And you are trying to share that emotion. So it's this really weird kind of place that you go to where you're like, okay, well, it's business, but it's also, it's also creative, but it's overlapping now into our personal relationship, but it should.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's
so counterintuitive.
Right.
It is puzzling to think like, how do you balance making a song which in itself is a project? because there has to be a verse, has to be, at least how I say it, pop song story. There's got to be a chorus, there's got to be a verse, right? Like there's got to be some sense of instrumentation, but at the same time, how do you do that in balanced structure with giving a raw emotional reaction to lyrics or to a melody?
And it's tough.
It's really tough.
It's really tough, especially like when I come to him with like, I got it.
Yeah.
And I've got this idea, and I put my, I put my iPhone, the iNotes on, and I play the music and I sing along with it, and then I like take it to him and I'm like, here it is. What do you think? And he's like, no.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh man, like it just breaks me.
Yeah.
But I try to understand like why no? Like why just no? He's like, I don't know, I have to think about it. But like his immediate knee-jerk reaction is no.
Wow.
Or I'll just do something so weirdly random like that I'm not even thinking about it. He'd be like, that's it. I'm like, wait, what?
I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I was just doing it.
So it's interesting. Like I guess the point is like what's super important to me or meaningful to me might not be to him. And so you have to find that balance.
It's a metaphor for relationships in general.
Hey,
because it can,
right?
It really is. It's not just about music,
Right?
So when you kind of wrapped up high school, you had this party, you run into Ian again.
Right.
But you know that you don't want to do debate anymore because of the game. You know that you don't want to be a lawyer, which is, I guess, the next evolution of being in debate. So did you head off to college after high school?
Yeah, I did. I mean, of course, you got to go to school. Sure. So I went to
a lot of pressure there, like from the family.
No, my folks were always like very like whatever you want to do, honey, we'll support you. Mm-hmm. Like I have an incredibly supportive family unit, which is awesome.
That's cool.
But I ended up just, I was like, well, I don't want to waste money like at a university just yet, not knowing what I want to do. So I did a community college thing for a couple of years, which they actually were kind of disappointed in that because because I had like pretty like solid grades and like I could have gotten into, but I'm like, I don't want to spend the money yet, like I'm not there yet. So I ended up just doing a little bit of community college and I fell in love with art history.
Oh.
And I was like, here we go.
Any particular period?
Well, of course you kind of get exposed to Renaissance right away when you take Art 101. But I thought Baroque was incredible. And I think maybe it was just kind of like, well, everybody knows about Renaissance. I really want to learn about Baroque art, And so it was kind of this like, I mean, I'm still a teenager, right? At that point and just wanting to be kind of different. And I thought art history was just that was it. I was like, this is going to be the discipline that teaches me to, embrace art. I kind of know how to create art ish, but I want to learn about the history of it. And history to me is fascinating, and learning about history through the lens of art to me was really fascinating.
Which is a great, if you were to eavesdrop into history, art is the best conduit for that.
I mean, it incorporates religion, politics,
aesthetic,
humanities,
style,
aesthetic,
fashion,
exactly. And so I'm like, well, this will be great. I still don't know what I want to do, but it'll be really great. So I took that. I was, I went on that path for a while. Wow. So,
but Baroque was your thing
at the time. At the time, and then ended up kind of really. I took another class, art theory, and I just realized like, oh man, like. Just the psychology behind the philosophy of art is like fascinating to me. And so that just got me going down that path.
Interesting. And this is all at community college? Or
No, I ended up at Cal State Long Beach.
Cal State, okay. Mm-hmm. So what did you ultimately, veering and turning and having all these different influences and inspirations, would you end up finishing it with a degree in there?
I got a degree in art history.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really focused, on actually like Warhol and art theory and Basquiat and just a lot of that, just what is art,
Right.
And then the whole time working in restaurants, and that's kind of, just.
Did you want to teach? Like, what was the ultimate goal, you think, with getting the degree in art history?
I thought about it, but as about 2 years into it, I realized like I'm not going to end up doing anything in the discipline.
Oh,
I just knew that the discipline was going to make me a kind of person that I wanted to be. And so
that's amazing. That's a really brilliant realization. No, I know. I mean, maybe like people's like, well, what's she gonna do with that? Like, but it doesn't matter.
No, I was just being lazy.
To be able to make the call and say like, yeah, I really enjoy this, but I'm probably not gonna to take it any further.
I
Cut
knew.
your losses. That's pretty intelligent for a kid to be able to do that.
I think it was me being kind of lazy. I was just like, I know I'm not going to do anything with this.
Yeah.
And I kind of love the restaurant business. Like,
really?
I want to do that. Like, this excites me, you know?
What is it? Was it the community and the empathy and like being around people? What was it?
Hospitality.
Yeah.
I know that word has been thrown around
it's a good
so
theme.
much lately.
But
It
it's
almost
a good theme
kind
of this
of grates on
conversation,
me a little
though.
bit, but
That's it. Like,
that was it for me.
Distill it all down.
Yeah.
It is hospitality.
For sure.
Which is empathy and community.
Yeah.
Right? Like that really is what it is. So what was your first kind of eye-opening gig in the hospitality industry?
Leading up to, I have to mention I worked for my aunt who owned this tiny little Italian restaurant, which was great. And that's kind of where I learned like the, ins and outs and what it meant to like run a restaurant. I mean, I'd be there by myself with the cook. Sometimes we would just do it all. And it was fun, and getting to like know the people and the regulars and, and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, did a couple other things, but I ended up at this really cute little dive bar converted into a restaurant called Memphis. Which now is Memphis Restaurant Group in Southern California. Myself, a friend of mine, and then the 3 owners and a couple other people, we opened this place like just randomly. I stumbled into the job and they had this great vision. And that was where, at like 21 years old, that was where I finally was like, oh, I'm home.
You got it. Like it all
like
made
I wanted
sense.
to hang out there when I wasn't working. It was that kind of a place, and great food, and that's where I learned about wine and and cocktails eventually.
Yeah.
So
because what year were you?
That would have been 95, 96.
So there was not a cocktail scene yet.
There was in 90.
So nationally, let's put it that.
No. In 1998, working there, we got a liquor license, and we're like, we're gonna do this right. We're going to have a well-made cosmopolitan. We're going to have a mint julep with crushed ice, and we're going to make our own simple syrup, And so I think that was about 98. It was kind of lost on me at the time. It was more of a mechanical thing, learning how to make these drinks and stuff. It wasn't until later when I came to Austin that I really delved.
You could see how it was turning into a thing.
Yes, for sure. But Memphis, they put several careers on the maps and really like they still are a hub, which is super exciting for me. I just went back actually a couple weeks ago and had dinner there.
Is it what you had remembered it? Yeah,
it's exactly the same.
You still want to hang out there?
Super exciting, and I totally loved hanging out there all night.
So
a couple
cool.
different people that came by and sat, we chatted, and it was really great.
That's amazing.
So
you kind of hopping in a positive sense, like with some other gigs in California too, like in the
that was
hospital?
it for me.
That was it.
I got so lucky to land that gig and I wrote it. I'm a very once I find something I love to do, I am pretty loyal.
Yeah.
I've been with Twin 15 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's a long time.
Ian and I decided to move here in 2000.
What was the impetus for moving?
You're newly married and you want to kind of make your own mark.
Yeah.
And his folks were here and we were kind of like, where do we want to move in the country? Let's do something different. And we were looking at maybe like Seattle or Boston. And I'm like, I don't want to be cold.
Right.
And
I don't want to be sad.
Yeah, I don't want to get sad and I don't want to be cold. But great towns, both of them.
Sure.
No disrespect at all. I like being hot. And so Ian's folks are here, and so we're like, yeah, let's go to Austin. It'll be really fun. And we moved here like we had no jobs, nothing lined up, and we just moved here. And I actually was in HEB, and I was like, where the heck is the Absolute Citron? That's what I was drinking at the time.
Because it was in California. It's all over in the grocery stores.
And my mother-in-law goes, oh, honey, you got to go to the package store next door. And I'm like, package what?
Was this Hancock?
No. This was out in Bee Cave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I walked into what was Twin Liquors number 8 at the time. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is totally it. This tiny little shop, like super like condensed, like, because I was like very into wine and I was very into spirits, like at Memphis, but you're limited to the wine list, when you're at a restaurant, or your cocktail list. And here I am in this store that has everything.
Absolutely.
And so I just my mind was blown, and I had a job the next day.
No kidding.
There. And
so this was 2000?
2000.
So what was the pitch? How did you get the job?
I just was like, are you hiring? This place is awesome. And the guy running the store at the time, Craig, this New Yorker, he goes, yeah, you got any experience? And I was like, and actually at the time I interviewed with the president of the company, because that's how small we were, that he was doing the hiring.
Oh, that's so cool.
And had lunch with him, and got hired on. And
so you've grown as they've grown.
Exactly.
You were there when it was just kind of burgeoning.
Yeah, there were only, let's see, if I was store 8, there were 12 stores at the time. Man. And we're at 70, 80 stores now.
That is an amazing, so take as an aside, I always have these asides.
Aside, I like asides. Let's me have a drink while we're having an aside.
So we're having an aside, what might be a footnote to the conversation. Twin is a beautiful organization, and the people that work there are fucking incredible.
Thank you.
And as a person on the other side of the fence, right, I don't serve, I'm producing and all this. You guys have been nothing but amazing to deal with, and the partnerships that we've had and the support we've had from Twin has been just nothing short of inspiring, because you get in, you distill something, right, you make this juice, and you're like, hey, you want this juice? Some people fuck off. Other people's yes, of course. There are some, people at Specs are we don't really care. We can make money doing what we're doing, right? And this is me saying this, not you. But Twin they always came to the conversation open and flexible and really wanting to make a difference in the scene, the spirit scene. And I can't thank you guys enough for the support you've given Genius and all the stuff that we've been working on.
That's very generous of you to say. I mean, I think that's probably one of the main reasons why I still work for Twin 15 years later. Despite
that is a long time. That's a great stint there.
Yeah. Is because that, we always take care of the other person first. Yeah. And I think that's a rule to live by, is to always make sure that people around you are taken care of. And then everything else falls into place, but 15 years is a long time, but I've also, I was an associate, then a manager, then I was a regional manager, and now I'm marketing and events for the last, 5 years. Yeah. So it's almost like I've had these different jobs.
Which is cool, because you've seen all elements of the business.
Yes.
And from every angle. And I think that it's incredibly valuable to get in at that point. I mean, that was the perfect time, because you can start, I don't know, did you start in sales then at that point? Or did you do a store manager?
I went from an associate to a manager, and then from there, and it was actually before we even really had a regional manager, I just was I went to the owners and I was like, we have a need for this thing, this position. And so I don't want to say the position was created for me, because it was a position that was needed, but I was one of the first people to hold it. And then same thing on the marketing, I was like, all right, we need a director of marketing. I'm doing all of these things that mean director of marketing, and at a point it was they gave me the title. So it's been really interesting. It's still in a lot of ways mom and pop, but it's also a corporation, and while that has its frustrations, and the owners will be the first people to admit that has its frustrations, at the same time, it's very liberating, and it makes the company very nimble, and it makes it easy for us to be able to be open and work with, new brands or whatever it is, that's exciting and new. And to me, that's the most exciting part of it, is that freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. That you use the word nimble. I think that's a great way to describe Twin, because you guys seem like you're ahead of it at all times, you kind of
sometimes we try to be.
Well, at least for those of us not behind the curtain, it seems like you guys are well prepared, good staff, always carrying the best products.
We have great people. I mean, and a lot of the people who work for Twin, I'm good friends with, it's nice to be able to have that camaraderie. And that's what I had in my other job too with Memphis. It was we all hung out together. I want that. That's what I want out of my life and my career and my job. And I don't want to be an attorney fighting and playing a game. I want you want to
fight the good fight.
I want to sit and talk with Mike G and have some whiskey.
Yeah. I don't know who doesn't want to do that. Actually, I guess Dennis Gobis, he doesn't want to do that. At some point I'll bring some drama into this. But yes, so Dennis doesn't listen to it, and he just won't. He's afraid to sit down and talk to me. I don't know why.
Why is he? Why?
I think because we have some things to share with each other.
You need a coax him some more.
Yeah, I'm gonna get Lavenu in, and then it's like then the rest will fall.
Right.
I'll get all his staff.
The dominoes. Oh my god. Oh, how funny.
It's funny. It's totally funny. Well, so speaking of sipping some bourbon, the bottle that we selected this particular session is none other than the beautiful limited edition small batch barrel strength release from Four Roses for 2015, which is 54.3%.
It's delicious.
Real delicious. Very tight, very easy to sip. Does benefit from a little water.
Yeah, a couple drops really opened it up.
Yeah, what'd you think?
I think it's beautiful. Yeah, and the heat on it, actually, for being barrel, it was not the heat on it was really, I wouldn't have guessed, Me
either.
But yeah, a couple drops of water opened it up really, really nicely. I love all kinds of whiskey. I can appreciate it all. I almost was gonna reach for that ancient age. I was like, I don't know.
Right. Yes.
I'm feeling kind of, like.
Yes. I just got that yesterday.
I love ancient age.
Dude, check it out. So ancient age.
Now we're not gonna be able to find it.
Well, I'll tell you what I did is ancient age 10-star, because the 10-year they don't make anymore. And I got a bottle. I had some guy that he said he was gonna sell me a bottle 10-year. He did, and he sent me a bottle of 10-star. But I'm like, all right, whatever.
Okay.
And so I sipped it. I'm like, man, I really like this. And I finished a couple bottles of it. I was like, I have a feeling this is going to be hard to get. I really do. And so I went searching, and I've got my dealer, as I allude to him in these conversations, who got me this bottle, for example. And I said, hey, dealer, what's the deal? No one's got H&H 10-star. Can you check with whoever's got it and see? He's like, yeah, so they're not making it in 750s anymore. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. He goes, all I can see is they've got 6 cases left, and that's it. 6 packs? Do you want some? 175s. I'm like, yes.
Oh, crazy.
Yes, I do. So I was like, buy a case, and he's going to buy the rest of it up for all of Austin, because there's none on order, nothing. So for some reason, like, I think maybe H&H is the new old charter, because the old charter 8, the old charter 10, all that stuff's gone. But there's something really beautiful about those, like, people consider them lowbrow whiskeys, but they're fucking good.
Right?
They're really good.
Well, it's funny when I very first started with Twin, and I was working at the little Bee Cave store and the Lakeway store that I managed. Like, Lakeway was the retirement community.
Yeah,
or still kind of is, but at the time it really was.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything out there was like, case of Old Charter, case of Ancient Age, case of old Overholts.
Oh, yeah.
But it was all like the 80-year-old dudes who want, and I didn't even really carry it. I would just order a case and keep it in the back for them. Like, oh, okay, Mr. McCarthy, here's your case of whatever.
That's what he told me too. Only the 80-year-olds drink it. I'm like,
it's amazing.
What? Why?
So it all comes back around.
It does. I'm an old soul or something, or I'm like aging like Benjamin Buttons or something.
No. It just all comes back around.
It totally does, and. Everybody is real hip on these other kinds of bourbons that are out, like all the Van Winkle stuff, which is fine, right? But no one's Here's the thing that's the problem. You buy Ancient Age, you drink that shit.
Mm-hmm. You're not afraid to drink it.
Not afraid to drink it at all. It's $21 for a 175.
Yes, you hit it. That's what drives me crazy about that allocated stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll enjoy it if somebody pours it for me. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like, I want to be able to buy a bottle and know that I can enjoy it and not feel bad about finishing it.
And there's so many people, they're shifting the way that the market works with it, and they're just keeping it to sell it. And I'm like, this is so frustrating, because I can get bottles, but they're twice the amount that I spent for them last year. And it's insane, like all the way that all these prices have been inflated by people that aren't even drinking it.
Well, what's interesting about that is now the consumer there are way more consumers like that now, which is kind of everything has its place. Like, you need that 5% of consumers to be that way so that you can get fetch the money for the expensive stuff,
right,
so to speak. Sure. But it's like with art, right?
Yeah,
it's the same thing with art. But all of a sudden now the scale is just tipping, where it's like, I mean, everybody wants the rare and collectible stuff. Yeah. Like, everybody.
I know. But for what purpose? Like, some people, I want to drink that shit. I do. And I want to share it. Actually, I want to share it more than I want to drink it.
Yeah.
You know, but these bottles are not like this Four Roses. It's not easy to come by. It happens once a year. I don't know how many bottles you guys got, you know, but it's expensive stuff.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. But bourbon is something meant to be shared. It's not been meant to be coveted and like taken and put in a closet for 10 years and then sell it because it's going to be valuable. It's not. I don't think that's healthy for bourbon.
A little bit of it is.
Yeah, maybe
not
a little
a lot.
Bit. Not, but that's the standard MO.
It's
like,
crazy right now.
He was telling me like people are coming down from Dallas now because they can't get it up there, but they're coming down here to buy it so that they can sell it.
Seeing that I don't like.
That's terrible. It's totally terrible.
Buy it, gift it, enjoy it,
yeah,
share
man.
it.
It's a piece of. If I die tomorrow, I have one sealed bottle, and that's pretty good. The rest of them, I've enjoyed at least a couple drams. You know.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. But would you consider yourself more of a whiskey person?
I think so. I mean, that really is where I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
What is it about it?
It's easy on me.
Yeah.
You know, as I get older, you know, I have to pay attention to that kind of stuff. And tequila too. Tequila and whiskey.
Yeah.
They're easy on me. Gin makes me like I'll get wasted right away with gin. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
And
I'll tell you some gin after the interview.
Yeah. And then red wine was my first love. So I love some red wine, but I can't really drink too much white. Champagne, beer kind of screws with my headachy type stuff. But whiskey and tequila are good to me. They make me feel good. They put me in the right frame of mind.
You can wake up in the morning feeling fine.
Never feel bad. You know, and they're just, like I said, they're good to me.
Yeah. How's the craft thing been for you? Because you've been immersed in the booze business for long enough now to have seen the uprising of small guys kind of making some things that are good, some things that are great, some things that are not so great. Do you kind of feel like it's going to keep getting bigger, or do you think there are going to be some market saturation, so to speak?
Yes and yes. I think it's interesting because like looking at it from our point of view and all of our peers, like we think like, oh my God, it's so saturated. It's so done. And I mean, the craft cocktail movement and the craft spirits movement and all of that. But what I see, you know, through like the retail side of things is it's just really starting to take hold with I call it the pedestrian consumer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like I lie with a foot in both worlds. Like I've got a foot in your craft world, but I've also got a foot in that kind of.
Sure,
you know, I have to, right?
Yeah, you have to.
And so this year specifically, it was amazing to me. I worked the retail floor at Christmas.
Oh, cool!
Because I want to know my customer.
Well, they see in the commercials like, "Where's that girl in the commercial?"
Right?
She's got to work at one of these stores.
And I do. But I get out there and I talk to consumers, and that to me was just absolutely fascinating to me. How much they don't know about the product and how much they want to know. All of a sudden, they're craving the information and the knowledge, which is super exciting. Again, I'm not talking about our peer group. But
we're insular, so
yes,
we
are.
Like, oh, we're all cool. We know all the cool stuff, and but it's not the thing I've learned that's really important if you have a business is that it's not about me. It's about the consumers. It's about people that can spread the word, people that will enjoy it. And if those people are craving more craft gins, then God bless them. Then we'll keep doing it. You know.
It's incredible. Yeah. Like there was something about this season that was just like, whoa, like it caught on. Yes, yes, we did it.
That's amazing.
I feel like saying that to all of us. Yeah, Mike G, we did it. You know, like all of our friends, like
we're celebrating it right now.
Like, you know, I mean, from our very first Tipsy Tech University class.
Yeah.
I guess 2010 maybe. I think it was
something around then.
Like that. Mm-hmm. I was in that first class. And, you know, it was just kind of like, what are we doing, guys? And it's like, it's like, we did it. So
it's phase one is over. Infancy is over. Yeah. Now it's time to mature, I guess.
And it's really amazing to see like people out there doing, you know, like what you're doing, you know, taking it to that next level and people like, you know, Jay at 86 Company and Bill. I mean, you know, Bill being for a national chain, being a beverage director is amazing. And proliferating that message is so exciting to me. That is going to help. It's going to help a lot.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So when are you going to leave the business to pursue your music career with Auto Division?
Oh, probably not with Auto Division. I don't know. Now that Ian's playing with the Ventures, I think I mean, I love working for Twin. I'll do it as long as I can. I think if I do see a future for me in the music business, that's probably going to end up being something like, marketing side or PR side,
artist relations.
Sure. And then like, hey, if you need me to sing some backup, I'll do it.
I know I represent you, but I know it'll be cheaper. I've been looking at the P&L. It'll be so much cheaper if I just come in and do some background sessions for you.
That's so funny you say that, because that's kind of why I do the Twin Liquors commercials. It was kind of like this, hey, we have this idea for this sale and blah, blah, blah. And well, who's going to do the commercials? And the owners were like, well, I mean, what? It wasn't so much like why pay an actor, but it was like, well, Sandra, you can do it.
She's pretty much an actress,
I mean,
right?
you can do it, right?
You got on stage before.
But it's kind of like that thing. It's just like, remember I was saying earlier about the fact that I'm like this kind of, lone wolf in this one woman show. And I just feel like, well, gosh, if I can just do it, let me just do it real fast. Yeah. It's kind of that.
Are you rolling? Let me just do it.
Real quick. Real quick, let me just do it. And then we're done and let's move on. And so it's kind of like there is a little bit of that, and it's definitely not an ego thing. It is absolutely
just getting shit done, right?
It's getting shit done kind of thing. That is exactly what it is. And it's so funny because I still like shake my head about whatever it is, the commercials, or the fact that, Ian and I would put out that EP, and now he's doing, the venture stuff, which is so amazing. And he's going to start traveling, which is crazy. And so I'll be
a lot.
I know I'll be managing. I'll probably end up managing his, image or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, image is good.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I need an image manager.
Right?
I mean, I'm not patronized. I probably do.
Well, it's kind of crazy too, because even like he's only gone over to get introduced in Japan, but he hasn't like gone and actually like played a full tour. But already like the Japanese fans are, very particular, and they want information, and they, and they eat it all up. And I'm like, I was telling him the other day, I'm like, man, you're going to have to stay on top of this. Like, this is going to be another job. And he's like, you have to help me. So
help me, please.
So that's kind of like, I definitely see like that being part of what we end up doing together. And we're definitely a team for sure. And
for a long time now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty inspiring too.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
I mean, it is. When anybody makes it for over 15 years, that's a pretty good metric of making. I mean, that's kind of something to look up to about that. Not many people. Whether you think about their job, you're talking 15 years with Twin, almost 20 years in your marriage. I mean, those are. It's a huge testament to your ability to like commit to something and making sure you do something right. That's not a lot of people illustrate that.
Thank you. I mean, once I have certain things set, I kind of like them to I like it to stay that way. It's like, okay, that's good. Now, does it mix up inside a little bit? Let's mix it up, and let's write some music together. Let's do this or that or travel or whatever it may be. So this next year is going to be super interesting with him gone for 2 months, and I'm going to go over and visit. And check it out and go meet all the fun, nice Japanese people who.
Beautiful place. So easy
wait.
being.
I know y'all went over.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get around because Google sucks really bad, but people are incredibly helpful and very friendly.
Oh, fun.
Subway is just brilliant in Tokyo at least.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, I'm super excited.
I think it's worth it. It's going to be, you'll have a good time.
It'll be such a strange experience too, like in terms of being over there, like watching Ian be this.
In a different fucking country. Yeah. Man. It's got to make you pretty proud, though.
Yeah, it'll be weird. Like, I look at him every day, and he's my, husband and my partner and my best friend. And then I'm going to go over there and see him as, like, this person that other people look to as, like, a, rock star. I use that word loosely. He would want me to use that term loosely. But you know what I mean? It's just kind of neat to see your spouse or your partner or whoever in a different light. Yeah. It's exciting and it's inspiring for sure.
Do you ever see yourself starting your own place, your own bar, your own restaurant? Is that something on the radar for you?
It's always kind of been there in terms of, the idea of, hospitality. But, I get kind of, I know this sounds so weird. It's not so much that I get lazy. It's just the the idea of like being committed to it and that one thing, because I know that I would want to put everything into it.
Well, yeah, you would be dedicated to it.
And right now, I mean, granted, Twin is a huge part of my work life, but I still can have fun with music and, other things.
Yeah.
And not to say I couldn't if I owned my own bar, but, I probably wouldn't even be a bar. It'd probably be some kind of a restaurant.
What? It'll be good. It'll be interesting.
Or even a venue. I could see myself. I could see
yeah.
myself owning a venue and having like music and stuff there.
Craft cocktail emos. Think about that. Wouldn't that be strange? There's like emos or Red Eye Fly. Well, not Red Eye Fly anymore, but there's Beauty Bar, Holy Mountain. But anyway, none of those places have ever had craft cocktails. It'd be interesting. Maybe it'll change that way. That people will want to go see like hot water music. And
maybe. I never want a craft cocktail when I'm seeing a band. Is that weird?
I just want to drink whiskey.
I want a whiskey. I want a whiskey or a club soda if I'm DD. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe I would want my own plate, like my own venue, just so I could hang out with the band.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to talk to you guys.
Well, so let's end on this then. We all are today in a state of mourning because, I think we were all very lucky that Mark Maron on WTF just recently did an interview with Lemmy, and Lemmy talks about doing guitar tech for Jimi Hendrix, being in the room where Hendrix premiered in the UK.
Amazing.
And Eric Clapton was there, I think Paul McCartney as well, and they just didn't get it. Like he was there at such important times in music, and then he himself being such an important figure and icon in rock. But today, having all of that having happened, how are you feeling about it?
I never had like a huge connection to Motorhead, and like I respect everything about music in terms of what he did, and of course read a little bit more about him today. But anytime you see someone like that pass on, it's very sad, but then at the same time you have to just be so thankful for the gifts that they gave to the people that they gave it to. And I felt really upset when Scott Weiland passed away.
Oh, I definitely did,
but again, like what he gave, and I mean, I know some people hate them, but
no, but that was like one of the first tapes I ever had,
and that was tragic, like that was tragic,
but unexpected. I think Lemmy was like truly, you think it's going to catch up with him, but he seemed so immortal, drinking as he claimed for some
bottle of Jack
a day, then shifting to vodka for health reasons from what I read. But I mean, you think the guy's so bulletproof, and in a sense, he was this vestige of a different time in rock, and he seemed just impenetrable, rather impervious to harm, And so now that the mighty have fallen, it's kind of...
Does it make you kind of think about like your own like mortality in a way, like just where do I exist in the world of music, and if this person went, we're all gonna go someday, kind of thing.
It is sobering, ironically.
Yeah.
To think about him kind of finding out he had cancer on Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas, and then it just perpetuated and escalated. But if nothing else, the message is that you don't know when your ticket is going to be cashed. So don't keep closed bottles. Open them all.
Open everything.
Open them all. And don't ever let anything go unsaid. Because it'll kind of eat at you. So tell them you love them, right? All this kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Not like, you're an asshole. No, they won't do anybody any good. But all the positive stuff.
All the positive stuff for sure. All the good feelings for sure.
All the good stuff. So Sandra, thanks so much for the support we've had from Twin has been overwhelming and incredibly flattering, if nothing else. It's been inspiring. We keep moving on because of the kind of support from people like Twin Liquors, and thanks so much for you just kind of sitting down and chat with me and got to nerd out about music and
fun.
Drink some bourbon. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I really did. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. Well, there we go, everybody. Sandra Spalding, the director of marketing for Twin Liquors. Twin Liquors has not only been a wonderful support chain via retail and with their staff for myself at Genius, but also helping elevate the awareness and the vision of the San Antonio Cocktail Conference this year in 2016. So how many of you are going out to the conference? A lot of great classes, a lot of great events. Many people that have been on the show here will be facilitating classes. It's a good opportunity to get to know them in the flesh and get to see how captivating these personalities really are. I hope to see you down in San Antonio this upcoming weekend. Maybe we can share a drink. Maybe we can share a chat. But whatever it is that you do in San Antonio this upcoming weekend, please keep dancing.